Now, as you can see, I kind of made a mess of my Photoshop interface. So let me show you some cool things here, and I want to sort of touch on something called Workspaces here inside Photoshop as well. And this is a little bit new inside Photoshop CS5, at least the way that it's handled here inside Photoshop CS5. So I am inside what's referred to as the Design Workspace, and that's sort of the default workspace here inside Photoshop. Now, how do I know that I'm on the Design Workspace? Well, right here, towards the top right anyway, I'm on the Design there, and it's selected there for me. I didn't click on that. That's what was set for me already, but in the previous exercise, you and I rearranged some of the Photoshop palettes, and things are a bit of a mess now. So what I want to do is I want to take myself all the way back to where you and I started before we started moving the palettes around. So to do that, what I'll do is just towards the right of design, we have painting, and then we have this drop-down menu here. I'm going to click on this guy. And this reveals some additional Photoshop workspaces, which we'll get to. But the command that I'm going to choose is reset design. And what that will do is that'll take me all the way back to where you and I started. So all the palettes sort of rearrange themselves and put themselves back to where you and I began, which is great. So you can always go back and reset things, which is awesome. Now, that said, I thought what I would do is I thought I would take just a moment and show you how I usually rearrange the Photoshop workspace when I'm working on my own personal projects. And again, my thinking behind this is, again, for those who have not really worked a lot with Photoshop, it's kind of tough to know which palettes you'll use all the time and which ones you won't really use all that often. So I'll kind of give you a sense of at least how I like to work. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tear away the character palette and the paragraph palette. And what I'll do is I'll close those guys just by clicking on the X in the top corner there. Go ahead and close out of those guys. I don't really use styles either, so I'm going to drag styles out and I'll close him as well. I do like swatches. I do like info as well. I use that guy quite a bit. And I use my layers, my channels, and my paths palettes all the time as well. Now, what I'm going to do as well is up towards the top here, we have this column of additional icons here. We saw this earlier. I'll just expand that out. And we have a new palette here inside Photoshop CS5 called Mini Bridge. Now, I think what I'll do is I'll tear him away and I'll close out of him for now at least. And then we have another palette here called History. Now, I use History all the time, and I'll show you History in just a little while. He's what I refer to as the Uber undo. So if you know about undoing in some of your other applications, stepping back through various steps and so on. That's what History is all about. So I'm going to drag this guy, and I'll drop him into the Swatches palette group, something like this. Okay, so I think that looks good. This is kind of a rough layout of how I normally work. I'm just going to head up to the window menu here for a moment. Now, I think for now, I'll leave my workspace, my customized interface exactly the way it is. But later on, we'll be getting into, for example, we'll be getting into the histogram palette, we'll be getting into the masks palette, and a few others as well. Definitely our adjustments palette as well. There's tons of palettes in here, but I think for sort of everyday Photoshop use, these are the palettes that I use sort of on an ongoing basis. So again, we have swatches, info, history, layers, channels, and paths. Okay, so that's a great place to begin here. So the next thing that I want to do with you is I want to go and save up this customized interface. I want to save my own custom workspace. So to do that, what I'll do is I'll head back to this drop-down menu that we found here in the top right corner. And this time I'm going to go down to New Workspace. Go ahead and choose that option there. And we're presented here with this New Workspace dialog box. I'm just going to call this Jeff's Workspace. You can call your workspace whatever you want. And as a quick aside, for the last 5 years or so, I've used laptops exclusively because, you know, when I'm on the road, I love having a machine with me, but when I get home or when I get to the office, I plug my laptop into my much larger monitor, right? I have a 21-inch monitor that I do most of my work on. Well, what's great about this is I actually have, in the real world, I could have Jeff's workspace on the road and Jeff's workspace at the office. So in other words, I get to the office, I plug everything in, and then I just switch my workspace over to my office workspace, which is obviously a much larger workspace that I work inside, right? Just a neat idea for you anyway. So in any regard, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Save here. That saves up my workspace. You can see at the top here now I'm inside Jeff's workspace. Now what's fantastic here is at this point I can now flip Photoshop between the various workspaces that we have saved already. So for example, I could switch over to Essentials, and that gives me sort of the bare bones Photoshop here. Or I could drop down this menu and I could go into Painting if I wanted to. And once again, that's going to switch over Photoshop's interface. Now I have my brush presets palette, for example, open there. We've got some other palettes available as well. There's my brushes palette. There's the mini bridge and then history as well. Or I could drop down this menu and I could go all the way back to design, which is back on the workspace that you and I had set up, which we saved as our own workspace, Jeff's workspace. So I'm going to drop down this menu one more time and I'll say reset design. And that takes us all the way back to where we started, right? But again, what's cool here is I can go back to Jeff's workspace, and that takes me back to the workspace that you and I just saved. So I hope all this makes sense. All we're doing really is just saving customized interface layouts, if that makes sense. And one more quick note here. You can use this drop-down menu if you want. You can explore through the different workspaces if you wish. Or what you can do is you can head up to the window menu at the top, and then down to Workspace. And we have the exact same menu, essentially. There's our design and painting, and I could reset Jeff's workspace. I could delete a workspace if I wanted to, and so on. So that's really the idea here. So go ahead and create your own custom workspace. If you haven't done so already, make sure to save them up there as well.